lañ def ñoo ñëw ak yéen rek Skincare Plus nara jàkkaarloo ak yéen waxtaan ak yéen tuuti rek si suñu tube suñu baax emuñ rek ci ay diw waaye comme ni ngeen ko xamee rek dañoo yëngu ci ay tube te yënguwuñ nag si just any tube suñ tube bu nekk 5-star JANNA la 5-star JANNA mooy JANNA bi gën a pire moom la ñoo tube palmaan bi gën a fort moom la ñoo liggéeyee ñun rek si tube dara du doy day des not only dañoo tube but bu la neexee ñu tuubal la ba pare nag ñawal la we're not all about skin we are skin care and the plus does come in so many different ways.
No, ini bara.
Alright, okay. Welcome.
Basically, lot of lala me along is cool, man. That I can really relax.
What the madam?
Yeah, that's
what the madam?
Yeah.
Let them do somebody.
That's right.
Grand Villa.
Grand Villa.
That's fine.
Slowly. Yes. No.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people are basically me along very relaxed. So it's always kind of like an experience. It's very relaxed.
Nila fa ni sewal. Nidia Nena Grand Villa is the best guest house in the Gambia.
Beji andika Grand Villa Guest House. Na labungul bebe senyaring adum na bungul bebe nyarandiring coming ibela fila ila suwe taranyame. Until Grand Villa na kiliano la lafino wale mukangotin telkang. Na ye sabati Grand Villa yela kodo na fa kalamuta.
Oh man, this is like a paradise.
I know.
I so much love this place.
Yes, thank you.
Trust me, I love this place.
You can move someone and you're watching one.
Yeah.
And you want to Gambia. Grand Villa.
I tell you. I love this place. Okay. I love this place, man. Oh yeah.
Ni leftana kuo keso sotola. Futama Oljuntum Paradise Estate. Mbaya kumandiroke 7527218. Wale futana website auto www.grandvillaguesthouse.com. Grand Villa Guest House.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
yara ñilla domoro ka diatel
boy janno sikes restaurant
e say nakko be ni na dimbal nimbe domoro kala janno
domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kendema bije luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni adi manda wala de te ka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa e ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery iko fanan be kalele ba de lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo fendin lon dunia kono domoro betama nyillom international o toda number 1
amanke ba domo la jandama
e sa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa nakko sa futandin
e oto sa nakko be mu sikes restaurant
ndafa na janna mu yat ni manje dorom bijam
aban
CK's Restaurant, known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.
na broda min ba Europe Mr. Conte nka bo kol kan sai na so ko na mano banta jabo banta tulo ban sai ka bo kol kan da ka ba office ko na ba dama bulo mutarin ba ka ta simplano ko mbato ngane ta ya kuriye ma ko dumanti na ta mano sani tulo ni jam mun da bete la broda man balwo service kala mun service balwo service ni da foronte mo kala mun da a fela broda ko abitala internet all aya ba site la woldo balwo.com na wo sajje a apo ñu ba download la telephone lo na be sandiro to ni wal na be sidin ala office ko ndama manjar pour ay ta bank ko kodoki abe sidin office ko do daminto e do message so telephone ko no e bitiko be Gambia dawda bitiko ba bele ko ta tano dawda yeta fenko tawo wodama yala bar wa service na ta molda mata nyo le kan fi janna bro dan ka ko ayo ko ti
balwo service dinkirala jampo o manken na kolaya ko balwo service al demano kaje ko ale do mor feŋol sang alla dimbaya molu ana lakkanun tewol wato bela ani wat sudum fanan kono balwo service la dinkiralu ani la do kunyolu e be banko karo beto kabirin katon fo koyna nalla fa ko ku ko tan suro balwo service la kolto ali commandi telephone line la milbuko 9400213 7694319 wala 3192870 wala hankabi alta internet oto alila kolu jibe www.baluwo.com.
Do you live abroad and want to build your dream home in the Gambia without risking your funds and family ties? Do you want a household name that is trustworthy and efficient? A name that will continue to give you updates on the project from the beginning to the very end with videos and pictures? If your answer is yes, then worry no more. Boss Construction and Asset Management is here for you. If you live outside the Gambia and want to build your dream home, then this is ideal for you. Just reach out to Boss Construction and let's start building the dream home into a reality. With Boss Construction, the difference is clear. We give you value for money. Some of our services includes the following: construction management, building equipment rentals, rent management, purchase and leasing, asset management, and many more. For more information, please contact 282-4945. Better still, send us an email, bossgambia@gmail.com, or you can also visit our website on www.bossgambia.com. Boss Construction, a name you can trust. Boss Construction and Asset Management, keeping families together.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Brunch with me, Mustafa Kedabo. This is, of course, the final edition of the Brunch for 2019. And with me, it's Miss Mima Kamara from the University of the Gambia, as Cham would like to refer to her, and Imran Dabo from the TRRC, and also Mr. Sidi Sanneh who is joining us from the United States. He's a blogger and a political commentator on Gambian affairs. Of course, he comments frequently on economics as well. Mr. Sidi Sanneh and Nima and Imran, welcome to this edition of the brunch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. So on this edition, we will be discussing a lot of issues, including the TRRC, the economy, basically everything that's happened, significant things that have happened in the country within the 2019 as we move towards a new year. But first we will begin the discussion with the TRRC, because this has been launched in 2019, 2018 January to 2019 December. Now we are, it's almost 1 year. So I will begin the discussion with you, Nyima. I mean, how TRRC has ended its first year, and its interim report, of course, which is just its activities, should be ready in this month. I think it's already ready, perhaps. What's your recollection so far of the first year? How would you rate it?
I would just start by saying when the TRRC first came, there was so much anticipation. People were excited about what things are going to be revealed, what we can learn from it. And the audience was spectacular as well. The interest was at its peak, to a point where some people used to equate it to a soap opera. And we have had so many revelations, and we were hopeful that with those revelations things were going to be different. But based on my observation, I think that anticipation that was there might have changed a little bit, because the Never Again campaign meant that everything that happened in the past would not repeat itself in the new government. And we have seen many things that are happening also with this new government contradicting what the TRRC stands for. And some unpopular decisions have been made, which was to release the junglers, even though I may not necessarily buy into some of the criticisms that were levied against such a decision. But most of those things, and the fact that it has prolonged a little bit, and the fact that the exciting things, I say exciting because of a lack of a better word, have happened in the media. So most of the things that followed afterwards were not necessarily as exciting as the ones. So from my observation, it seems to me as though people are beginning to leave it behind a little bit. I don't know what else can be done to stimulate our interest back into the process. Maybe the TRRC guy would help us with that. But overall, I think the TRRC as a commission have done so much. With little, I don't know how far you have gone to mobilize funds, but what we have had before was that there wasn't much fund, especially coming from the government, so it was dependent on donor contributions. Regardless of that, they have done so much, even as far as bringing the process to the communities, the witch hunting testimonies that we have listened to. That was another to just make people be involved in the process. So that was, for me, that was a good move. Yeah.
Okay, before I come to Imran, who is on the inside, I think I would like to engage Mr. Sanneh on this. Mr. Sanneh, if you can hear us, I mean, the TRRC has clocked 1 year, and a lot of issues. Basically, it has had 188 victims on public hearing. A lot has been done. What's your overall assessment, generally, of its post year?
Yeah, I think, can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. No, I think the TRRC, I will agree with Ms. Kamara, that interest has waned over time because of what I would consider to be some preemptive action on the part of the government right in the middle of the process itself. The transactional justice process has been, transitional justice rather, has been interrupted because of what I consider personally to be interference on the part of government, but more specifically on the part of the Ministry of Justice. My interest waned at the personal level when they released those junglers. I think it was a very tragic mistake on the part of government. because I feel that it was a slight on the victims of the JANNA regime. The junglers were among the most notorious group of enforcers within JANNA's government, and those should have been the persons who should have been incarcerated, kept behind bars until the end of the process, and then government will decide what they will do. But to release them right in the middle of the process, I think that really damaged the reputation of the TRRC.
Of course, the TRRC did hold its final press conference last week, about 2 weeks ago. And Dr. Bawa Galijolo did stated explicitly that the decision to release junglers was not made by them. I mean, do you think that it nevertheless affects the TRRCs in terms of how people look at the process?
Yes, it has, because you see, you cannot separate the actions of the government from the actions of the TRRC. And I think that at the end of the day, it is the ultimate responsibility lies with the government for that particular decision. And I think most people will understand that the decision did not come from the TRRC, but from higher up. But it does have an impact, and it has it resulted in lack of interest on the part of the public.
I'm sure when we were going into the process, I mean, yourself, you had a lot of questions. We in the media, we were asking questions like, who killed Deda Hydra? I mean, is Keith Mane dead? A lot more questions were being asked, and it appears TRRC answers some of these questions, if not all of them. I mean, what do you make of this? Do you think that's part of the good things it brought about?
No, yes, there are very good things that came out of it, or that is coming out of it at the moment, because since they are still, the process is still on. But I think if you look at the atrocities committed against women, and there are some very good and positive things that come out of it. But I think really the jungle was a serious error. But I think that the TRRC can recover moving forward. And then let's see what happens at the end of it all when they submit their final report and what actions government is going to take. It is salvageable, but I think that the reputation has been damaged because of that particular action. And of course, the Sana Sabalins and the Edward Singate's cases did not help the situation any, because people, personally, I felt that they went off lightly. Arrangements were made, some understandings were reached between the government and them, the members of the AFPRC. So they're off now. I hope that is not the end of the story.
Thank you very much, but I will come back to you, Nyima. I mean, before I go to Imran, because finally you would be the one to be, I mean, what do you make of, I mean, of course, there were a lot of people, aside from the release of the junglers, who also said, well, perhaps reconciliation meeting between Edward and Sana was also a charade. It was something that it took more from TRRC than it gave the institution.
Yeah. I think sometimes these things can be very complicated. There is no one specific way to go about it. Because the TRRC's ultimate goal is also to reconcile a society. Should that happen after the process? Should it happen while the process is ongoing? I think that's the big question. And you are looking at, if we mean conciliation, we're looking at where it happens between perpetrators and victims, where victims have find solace in the revelations that are coming out from the perpetrators and the acceptance of the acts that they have committed. With the Edward and Sanneh, I think the reason why many people were angry is because Edward came and flounced the whole process. He was supposed to be the one to show remorse for his actions, but he hasn't done that, and many people were angry at that stage. And then you have him being given this heroic image as to showing him to be somebody who can be forgiven, who can accept to reconcile with his former rival or something like that. And the TRRC playing a center stage in that activity was unacceptable for most people. So from that perspective, I don't think ensuring reconciliation efforts from the TRRC's point of view was wrong necessarily, but it's the people that are involved. Edward and Sanneh Sabally can reconcile, but for me, that should have done privately. And the TRRC shouldn't have been seen to play a role in that.
Well, we go to now Mr. Imran Dabo. I mean, you work at the communications unit of the TRRC, and a lot of things that comes to the commission pass through you people. So I would first begin with your general impression, I mean, on the inside. How has the year been for the commission?
It has been a very interesting year. We are happy with the progress that we've made, definitely. There has been challenges, of course, but those have been minimal, we believe. We've regained a lot of success. Although at the beginning we had to do a whole lot of things new that we had no experience in, and this is new to the whole Gambia. So some of those things were challenges. For example, even when the commission was launched, there were still a lot of things that needed to be done behind the scenes to be able to start hearings by the date that was slated, which was January 7th. But eventually we did manage to put everything together by that time, and then hearings started. And the public ownership of the whole process has been really impressive. I don't think we could have asked for more. But like you mentioned, there would be hiccups here and there, and people's ideas and views of how we do certain things will not be the same. Some people will agree with some things, some people will not agree with certain things. So we do understand all of those. But ultimately, the objective was to investigate certain issues, and we have a number of themes. We've covered 11 of them during the first year, and we've dug up a lot of information that I believe a whole lot of people in the country appreciated, information that we have been wondering about, and we were able to manage to investigate those and bring it to the public to know what happened. And we hope that people have learned lessons from it. There were challenges, but the TRRC does not work in a vacuum. So a lot of activities or things that the government would do would have an impact on how we operate, how people perceive us. Similarly, our own actions, and similarly people's sentiment, because what we are dealing with is human rights violations, and it touches on a lot of sentiments, anger here, frustration, people that have been sitting for years that have not had their issues addressed. So, we have to deal with people that have had their patience tested. We have to deal with people who have had very terrible things happen to them or to members of their families. And we also have people that still feel like this is a witch hunt. So all of these different sentiments and emotions and, all of them come together. So obviously we will not have a smooth route, but compared to a lot of truth commissions around the world, we believe that we have done very, very well, and it has been very successful despite the challenges.
So far, the public hearing has had 188 people, public hearing.
Indeed.
At the public hearing, you have 51 women, and you have 35 perpetrators. A lot of them are men.
Indeed. Indeed.
Of course. But if you look at, in terms of how much perpetrators you were able to bring also, to to the public
Testify.
hearings. It's, for a lot of people, that's good.
It is compared to a lot of, because most truth commissions around the world, one of the challenges is that the people who were in positions of power still would refuse or would still have certain amounts of power, and because of that they refuse to come to the process, and then it becomes a skewed process. So it's one-sided. It's just people that come to complain about things that they suffered, but not people that have actually done these deeds to come and clarify what happened and what they did and how it was done. So in terms of, just that the Gambian Commission has done very, very well to have...
Why do you think it did very, very well? Is it because of the goodwill from the population, or because we've seen when Yankuba Toure said he was not going to testify, this was a challenge to the commission, and we've seen people take him to the street, literally, trying to force Yankuba
I think that was the first time.
Or is it just because government also have a goodwill, or maybe because government knows if you mess up with the TRS, it's people's court and people are not going to tolerate it?
I believe it begins from the change in 2016, the way people came out and removed a dictatorship of 22 years. To be able to do that in a democratic process would show that the whole or the majority of the country is behind this revolution, this movement. And because of that, the process, the transitional justice process also has that support, or had that support from the beginning. So the TRRC had that support, and the government goodwill is also included in that. So that actually did facilitate it. But for even, we see that even for alleged perpetrators or adversely mentioned persons who have been outside the country, did actually come back into the country to testify. And this, I cannot guess what the reason was. They've explained for them. For example, Sana Sabali has explained the reasons why he decided to come. He felt it was, his duty. He should come and clarify and explain his part of what transpired here. So it's a whole movement. I think it's the entire Gambian population behind this that has made it that successful in terms of the support.
Have a follow-up question to that. Yeah, I think a lot of people are criticizing just the name of the TRRC to be Truth, Reconciliation, Reparation Commission. Indeed. And the justice being missing from it. Indeed. Could this be an enticement for the major perpetrators that willingly came to testify? Could it be that for them they believe that in exchange of their truthfulness would then come forgiveness?
I would not be able to guess on how they perceived it, what the reasons were behind their coming. But I can speak on the TRRC aspect of it, the naming of it. All of these aspects that you are mentioning, according to the international standards and treaties, they are part of justice as well. For example, people who have had people disappear, like family members disappear, it's obligation on the state to investigate and to find out and tell them where or how, what the fate of their loved ones are. That is part of justice. Reparations is part of justice. So perhaps we have not mentioned in the name justice, in the explicit
It just
term.
happens that majority of Gambians have a narrow understanding of what justice means, meaning you have to be tried in court.
That's the thing. So truth commissions generally are supposed to be holistic. So they don't only do retributive justice, which is prosecutions. You take the criminals to court and then deal with them. And usually that doesn't work because you only focus on the person that did the crime. But then you put them to jail and the victims are still suffering what they were suffering. So truth commissions tend to want to focus on the victims as well, and also find other means of providing justice. So reparations, for example, includes a lot of things. Rehabilitation for those who have been injured or physically suffered physical harm. For example, compensation, those who have lost livelihoods. Restitution for people who have lost certain things. So it includes a lot of justice in it. So it is not the fact that just because justice is not there, there's no justice. And even with the retributive justice part, which is the prosecutions, that is part of the TRRC process. But we cannot determine that until we write our final report, and that's where we make recommendations. Oh, this and this person, this is what should come of them. So it is holistic, basically. So justice is part of the process, notwithstanding that it is not included in the name.
So as far as the TRRC is concerned, unlike the Justice Ministry, as far as the Commission is concerned, you only wait until the investigations is done in 2 years' time, in a year time now,
Indeed.
and recommend prosecutions or otherwise.
Indeed. So because the way the process goes, investigations and then the hearings, there is no time to analyze the information. A lot of information is coming. Somebody is saying this, another person involved in the same incident would come and say something else. So it would not be ideal. The TRRC is not in a position at the moment to make definitive conclusions on people's culpability. So we cannot just right away decide, okay, he came today, he was lying, we should put him to jail or he should be prosecuted. So we have not been doing that. What we have been doing is taking the process, as we intended it, seek the truth, analyze the information, and at the end, as the Act provides, present a report that includes recommendations for what should be done with people. But as we all know, recently the UN Special Rapporteur for promoting truth, reconciliation, reparations and non-reoccurrence came and had a word with the TRRC. And even before that, we also know that the Act itself also provides that those that bear the greatest burden should be prosecuted or recommended for prosecution. International instruments and treaties also do not allow any country to let people go after they have committed certain human rights violations.
Torture, crime
so
against humanity.
Definitely, we are not going to. It is not that anybody just comes and says, "Oh, I did this and this and that," and okay, goodbye, I'm gone. So we will have these recommendations, but they have to come at the right time when the Commission has enough information to rely on to say that, okay, this person, definitely did this or needs to be dealt with in this manner. Yeah. So that is the process that we are doing.
Okay.
So also, as part of our review of the TRRC, over especially the past few months that we have had major perpetrators coming on board, such as Edward and Isatunjai Sedi, many people have been criticizing the prosecutory role of Issa Fall during the process, to assume that it is impeding the truth-seeking process of the TRRC, because people are supposed to tell their own stories the way they remember it, or the way their version of the truth, because the truth in that way can be subjective. But the prosecutory role make it seem like they have to accept responsibility without explaining the context.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
Okay, so first of all, again, the Truth Commission is a new thing to us. Yeah. And then you can see the dilemma, I think, from just this question that you posed. Yeah. You just mentioned earlier about the fact that people were not happy seeing, or some people were not happy seeing a reconciliation process between Sana Sabali and Edward Singate, right? So now certain other people are complaining that certain adversely mentioned people were questioned too harshly. So people have different perceptions of these things. But I believe for somebody like Esa that has had the amount of experience dealing with these kind of situations that he has, and being a professional that has been hired to do that role, I believe he understands his role and he understands the rules and rules of procedure that have been laid down to be able to manage these questions. It would be difficult for any layperson outside to just decide on how Esha should do his job. Yeah. So, but I believe also that he did provide, he did make a press conference at some point in the past, explaining exactly why this has to be. Because you can't, the way the process is, also you have to robustly question certain people to elicit the truth out of them. You know, you can't just accept everybody's word for it. Okay, this is what happened. Oh, that's right. Okay, goodbye. As I said, so you have to. There is a way of pushing to get answers or to corroborate or to confirm certain things. So that he has already addressed. That it is part of his job. He knows how to do his job, and I believe the majority of the country are confident in the way he has been conducting the job. So that's all I can say about that. I think it's opinion, but I believe we have professionals in all the roles at the TRRC to know how they would conduct or how they should conduct these hearings. And truth commissions are new to the Gambia, so we cannot have a definitive idea or opinion of how it should be done when we have not experienced it.
Mr. Sanneh, I mean, when the release of the junglers had happened, I mean, Imran and I and Nyuma were discussing about the release of the junglers, but also issues such as the appearance of Sana Edward and others. But when the junglers were released earlier, a lot of people feared, as Nyuma had said, that perhaps this is just a system where perpetrators are allowed to just go through, narrate their stories and get to go home and never to be prosecuted. Do you think those fears were justified?
Yes, I happen to be one of those who have all such fears. That it is the process, as I see it, and in most other countries, it is the transitional justice process is victim-centered. We are trying to gather the truth so that we can at least bring closure to those who have been victimized. Unfortunately, the process appeared to have been focused on the witnesses. I don't mean to be critical of the commission, but commission members and the like, with very little focus on the victim. This is the general impression. Talking to some of these victims, they will tell you that, well, we don't feel that our interests are being protected by this process. So I think the government has still time to recalibrate the entire process moving forward, particularly at the end of the process when they submit their report, and most importantly, what the government white paper is going to end up saying. Because if we go by the JANNA Commission and the white paper of the JANNA Commission, I think we have to brace ourselves again for some surprises that will significantly deviate from the actual report and the recommendations of the commission. So really, again, I am being
the Justice Minister.
Pardon me?
When the Justice Minister actually released of the junglers, one thing that he said was that he needed these people. I mean, do you think it may be because he thought they could be used in any future trial and doesn't want to prosecute them? Do you think that may be his rationale?
Again, it is. We are just speculating at this point, Mustafa, because we don't know. Okay, we don't want also the government to show their hands completely, but at least they have to give people the impression, or at least give them the indications as to which way they are headed. Because the junglers that they have released, that's almost 3/4 of the entire team. The others are in Guinea-Bissau, and we luckily have one here in the United States who is under custody of the immigration authorities, and that is Korea. Yes. So I think that we really have to be very cautious moving forward, and they also have to communicate. The Ministry of Justice has to communicate to us, at least give us an idea of where they're headed, and provide some justification for some of their actions. You know, because otherwise people are going to go with the wrong impression.
So, and it does appear that you don't have much problem with how TRRC is being run from the inside, but you did have an issue with the occasional actions of the Justice Ministry that seems to affect its credibility?
Well, no, I have also been critical, I think, of the Commission's work. Personally, the schedule that they have provided, that they are following, it is more or less a sequential type of an approach to it. That you start from July 22nd and you come all the way up to the 17th of January 2017 or thereabouts, rather than looking at it from the severity of the various crimes that have been committed. Okay, so this is my own personal view. Rather than going through the sequence of events from 1994 to date, that you will look at individual instances with the various commitments of the various crimes. I would have really started off with the junglers, because I think that they have done a very serious damage, and looking at it from that angle. But again, this is water under the bridge. But I'm just giving you an example. But I have also said this, that I wish that they have looked at the seriousness, the severity of various crimes that have been perpetrated against the Gambian people, rather than looking at the coup d'etat, how it happened, when it happened, and who did what and where, and so forth. I'm not saying that that's not important. All I'm saying is that those who have perpetrated the most serious of these crimes and their victims, I think this should have been the central focus. I made the same criticism of the JANNA Commission as well. I said, rather than going through the whole gamut of criminal activity over the period, why don't you look at those who have committed the most serious of crimes against the Gambian economy? And you can reduce those numbers to a dozen or 2 dozen. We know who they are. We know who has really destroyed the economy of that country. We know who pilfered the most of the limited resources of the country. We know them. Focus your attention on those people rather than going through and seeing, the messenger who went to the central bank and picked up some bank. I'm not saying it's not important, but I think we should have really approached it that way. This is what I have said in the JANNA Commission. But again, this is water under the bridge.
The action, if I can interrupt you, the action, seeing him arresting people like Lamin Senghor, the assassin. You've seen Mr. Mendy, JBC Mendy, John Charles Mendy, I think it's real name. But also later on, Yakuba Toure. I mean, there are a lot of people who said this is because the government have strong faith in the commission, and that they are willing to ensure that the commission succeed. I can remember Ba saying he will throw the books at Yakuba, literally saying we would charge him as much as we could. But there are others who say, well, it's because the commission is the people's court. It's because of the kind of support it enjoys. No one can just look the other way. Which side are you?
Well, I am on the side of the victims. I think everything that the commission should focus on, the most of it should be on at the end of the day, is the welfare of the victims. To make sure that they get closure, and the only way you can get closure is to make sure that those who perpetrated those crimes against them and against society are seen to be called to book. This is basically my contention. Is that the victims have been given the wrong end of the stick, and I don't think that is fair.
Sanneh, in a minute, let me come back to Nyima. I mean, when you look at the TRRC, I mean, in terms of what was able to achieve, you've seen there were several actions that have been taken by the Justice Ministry in a quote-unquote attempt to safeguard the integrity of the commission, such as several arrests and stuff. What do you make of those?
Yeah, so first of all, what we need to understand is that the state has a responsibility, whether or not the TRRC is there or not. If people are alleged to have committed such grave atrocities such as murder, the state has every responsibility to prosecute them. And this is the reason why, even when accidents occur, like we have it as a norm here in the Gambia, the victim side will say, we have forgiven this particular person. It's not up to you to forgive somebody who have murdered someone, whether it's accidental or not. The state always have a responsibility to prosecute such things. So the TRRC was set up to serve a particular purpose. And that is that we are given the truth so that we can learn from it, so that moving forward into the future, we would learn our lessons and we apply them to avert what has happened in the past to not happen again. Now, if you have somebody like Yankuba Toure or JCB Mendy coming to snub that process, what they are doing is now to expose themselves for the state to move forward to safeguard its primary responsibility, which is to prosecute murderers for alleged murders. So I don't have any issues with the Justice Ministry coming to arrest people like Yankuba and prosecuting them, although they will be unpopular because people are saying the TRRC is ongoing. But if they are not going to play their part in the process, then they don't give so much, they have not made so much input into that process to warrant their protection. And I think that's why it makes sense to have such parallel processes happening.
Mr. Imran, I mean, in terms of the support that the Commission enjoys from the Justice Minister, of course, we've seen them give you people $15 million. Of course, I was going to say dollars. That would be highly too much. I mean, the Commission operates on a huge budget. I think it's $130 million in a year. I mean, how much does this fit? I mean, in terms of the broader narrative of government's strong support to the Commission?
Just to clarify though, this 50 million that the government has given for the TRRC is specifically for reparations, so it cannot be used for the daily running of the TRRC. But as you mentioned, there's a huge budget for the TRRC, sensitization especially, which is my area, outreach. It costs a lot. Communications generally, traveling across the country to meet people, having to provide certain, amenities if you have to bring certain people over. It costs a lot of money. But also, so far we've registered about 900 people from the beginning of the commission today, as they come and register their stories. Every victim that comes into the TRRC has to be given transport refund. Has to be given food if they are to be there for a certain period of time, and if they are to stay overnight, they have to be given DSAs as well. So all of these things are funds that we have to spend from the TRRC funds. So it's a huge budget, basically. And as Dr. mentioned the other day, the Executive Secretary, even this 50 million alone won't cover it won't even begin to cover the cost of the reparations that we should be handing out at the end of the hearings, considering the constraints. Consider for now, for example, we have already managed to have 4 victims that have gone to Turkey for a treatment, but then they have their stay. Most of it has to be covered by the commission as well. So yes, so because it is reparations. This treatment program that they've gone to is part of their reparations. So it's a huge cost. They have to be there for at least 3 months. And so imagine the amount of money that would cost. And that would be living in a foreign country that has probably a higher rate. You have to convert money to be able to support, yes. So
and it's 941 victims.
Yes, so far, and we still are trying to get as many people to come forward as we can, because the whole idea is that we should not leave any victim behind. Although it's impossible to have 100% victim turnout, we want to have as many victims as possible come to at least give their stories to the Commission so that we can have a more clear picture of what happened here and the scale of it, but also for them to be eligible for reparations. So it's a huge task. It's a huge task. And in terms of what Mr. Sanneh was just mentioning about the approach to how do we prioritize which hearings to have first.
Basis,
you know, different ideas come up, you know, when you approach these things. But then the Commission has to sit and decide on what approach do we think is the best to take. And that might not be acceptable to a number of people or to different people, but on the informed information that the Commission has before it, that was the best approach to take. And considering also that this TRRC is not only backward looking, it's not only looking to address the problems that happened in the past. This idea of never again is very critical for us, the TRRC, but not only the TRRC. The entire transitional justice process is looking to ensure that these things that happened here don't happen again. So it is not only about investigating and addressing the problems of individual victims, but also having a picture, a clear picture of what happened in the country and how do we learn from these things, yes, so that we will be able to address them. So certain things might not feel important to certain individual, but looking at the whole context, the whole picture of everything that has transpired, you cannot determine whether the people that the junglers tortured were more important than the people that were witch hunted in Jambur, for example. It would be difficult to decide who is up against who on that scale. But we have to look at them as a holistic issue. Human rights violations that occur, and all of them are hideous from what we've seen from the Commission so far. And so we have to look at that bigger picture and see how we can also not only address the past issues or address the victims' plight, but also ensure that nobody in this country would have to ever go through that as well. So I think that is some of the reasons why, you know, some of the approaches we take may not be exactly, you know, what certain people would accept, because it's a subjective thing, I believe.
So finally, because we will have to end the conversation and go for a break on the TRRC. Finally, in 2019, if you were to summarize it in few words, I think basically a success, right, from the TRRC perspective?
Yes, indeed a success with some challenges, but we have this opportunity now to reflect and to see how we can redirect certain things and fine-tune certain things also. And I think funding has been one of the biggest challenges that we have. And also participation of women. That is one of these issues that we are trying to grapple with.
I've seen a lot more women are not participating.
Yes.
You have a lot more victims, about 188 and only
51 women, yes. So it's a challenge that which we are very concerned about, and we are trying to push. But because of the socio-cultural and religious realities in the country, it's difficult sometimes. Some of these things have an impact on the participation of women, and a lot of other issues also. So what we are trying to engage through outreach and consultation all stakeholders who will be able to then help us encourage more women to come forward. And then finance is also another issue, which is the reason being that most of the TRRC's resources are being funded by donors. Even though the government does actually help quite a lot, we still need funds, especially now that we are moving towards the second year of the Commission, which is supposed to be the final year. Reparations is going to be a big issue. We need to talk to people more about reparations, help them understand it more, which is why we just recently had the consultation with all stakeholders, national and international, to discuss the reparations procedures and policies that were created by the TRRC to see how to make them work best. So women participation will be a big focus for the TRRC. Also, resource mobilization would have to be critical, because we definitely need
reparations
as much
as
support
well.
as yes, which
because
is
the
focus on resource mobilization. A lot of it will be because of reparations, and this is why we also
it's ending in 2020 if everything goes to plan.
Indeed, so that is a major focus for us, and then we're also understanding the whole idea around it, that expectations are high for reparations, but to understand that the Commission cannot 100% satisfy everybody. So we'll have to talk to people a lot more about these things, reparations, participation.
A lot more media campaign.
We will do a lot of that, and we hope the media will support us to do a lot more of that as well, trying to encourage.
There will be big themes.
And never again is going to be a key also part of this process. We have a National Human Rights Commission now. The TRRC is mandated to finish it within 2 years. But we have a Human Rights Commission. And like I mentioned earlier, the TRRC is not only looking backwards, but also looking at the future. How do we ensure never again? So the National Human Rights Commission, we will work with them quite a lot in the coming year to try to see how they can pick up from where the TRRC will leave it, and then be able to pick up and carry on with protecting human rights in the country, which is, I think, a very critical part also of what we are doing. So all these institutions would have this never again idea also. Just a minute and I'll conclude. It's critical. We've done, we were like when we went to this diaspora engagement. And even within the country here, a lot of people would pose this question, oh, you guys are saying never again, but we are seeing a lot of things that we don't appreciate, things that have been happening before and we don't like. So we have to clarify that TRRC is promoting never again, but it is not going to be able to implement the never again ideology. That is up to the people. It is up to the religious leaders to, see how best to push for things that were going wrong never to happen again. It's for the media. It's for the individual Gambian to consider how do I use my one vote to make sure that I don't put anybody in place who is going to abuse this country again. It is up to the civil society organizations to engage with people, educate them about their rights, but also engage with government and explain to them what the people need. And it would be up to the National Assembly, the judiciary, to make sure that as custodians of justice, they do protect the rights of the people and protect the interests of justice. It's for the National Assembly to make sure that they make rules and laws that are in the interest of the people, not in the interest of government. So it is, the TRRC is just trying to encourage this conversation and push it to the people. Don't relax, don't sit back, we've got rid of a dictator, let's chill now, it's okay. Let's keep on pushing. Government, somebody described as a beast that if you don't restrain, will go out of control and annihilate everything around it. People have to take up this never again. It is not the TRRC. We have a very limited mandate. Investigate it to promote reconciliation, promote never again, give reparations. That's all we are supposed to do. So we cannot implement this idea. So it is up to the entire country to do it. Population. So we will do a lot more of this with the National Human Rights Commission, and hopefully people will pick it up and live with it. And from what we saw when Yankuba came and flaunted or tried to show what he did with the TRRC, we saw that people actually stood up that day, and we realized that, wow, people are actually taking these things seriously and taking ownership of it and will not watch what happened happen again. So we want more of that from institutions, from people, individuals, from our...
I still have a picture that reads, Yankuba must testify.
Indeed,
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Before you go, finally, the question I want to ask is a simple one, it's a quick one. We have seen that from the beginning you've been conducting community outreaches, vigorous sensitization, but we don't know what you do with the feedback that you're getting, especially on social media, because most of these criticisms are coming from influential people on the social media. And you may have your processes in place, but I don't know if they are cast in stone to suggest that the feedbacks are not going to change what you've started already. So if you're getting feedbacks, what do you do with them?
We do report. Every time we go on an outreach activity and we talk to people, we get, what we talked about and recommendations. We come back, we write a report, we submit it to the executive secretary, who would share it with the commissioners, because they have regular meetings almost every day and every Friday. would be meetings to discuss these issues. So we do consider this a lot of the feedback that we get, even on social media. In my unit, we have certain people, even myself, I don't come up to the hall much of the time. I sit and watch what people comment during the hearings. So we do listen to this feedback, but then we also have to understand that social media is a very uncontrolled, unorganized environment. So we don't buy into everything. And some of the criticism, we do have reasons why we do certain things the way we do them. So it may not be palatable to some people or certain sections, but we change things that we can, if we can. But if we believe, looking at it and being selected as professionals to do a job, if we believe to the best of our ability and knowledge that this is the best way to do it, we stick to that. But most of the criticism, as Mr. Sanneh mentioned, was focused on the release of the junglers. That is something the TRRC does not have much say in. So it's out of our control. So all we could do was clarify that this was not a decision for us. We would make our decisions at the end of the hearings. So most of the criticism we got from the this first year is mainly about issues that we could not do much about. In terms of, you mentioned the reconciliation between Sanneh and Edward. The TRRC is mandated to do a job, and in the act it mandates us to make sure that it is public. We should not be hiding anything. So we have in those people, we will not be looking at them as, because we cannot come into this job with preconceived notions that this guy is guilty, he did this and this and that. We have to come with an open mind, no matter how many things people have said about certain people. So if this is a person who was, yes, alleged perpetrator, but he was also a victim, and he comes to the commission and says, I want to reconcile with so and so, can you make the arrangements? It is our mandate, part of our mandate, to facilitate that. And we cannot just hide it away from the people, because even though they may have been alleged to have done certain things, they still have rights as every other Gambian. So if the commission can facilitate their reconciliation, it facilitates it. And it makes it public, because that's what we are supposed to do. That was the only thing. We did not try to promote anything out of it, or it's two people that wanted to reconcile. We facilitated it. We showed it on TV. So those are things that, you know, even though we do understand how people feel about it, we do understand the sentiment, but certain jobs, you know, you have to take the criticism, but you also have to understand that you have to do the job regardless of the sentiment that comes attached to it. We believe that at the end of the TRRC's job, then we can be judged according to what we have done throughout the process, and people can then decide whether the TRRC has done a good job or not. But even considering the feedback that we have now, we already believe that a lot of, or the majority of people are still confident in the TRRC, and they believe that we are doing a good job. So that is a motivation in itself. And even though there are criticisms, we will be looking at them, we will be reflecting, and we will be trying to, like I said earlier, reorient and fine-tune certain things to make the job a lot more effective. Yes.
Mr. Sanneh, finally, I mean, before we go for a break on the TRRC, I mean, we have seen that if you look at the first year of the commission, of course, now we know the killers of the Hydra. We know that the 44 Ghanaians, by the way, whose case will be investigated by the commission next year, were in fact killed by Gambian officials. So do you think, in summary, there are a lot also we don't know? I mean, we don't know now who killed Korosi. We thought that would be clearer with the coming of Edward and Yakuba. But that still remains unsaid and unclear. But do you think we are closer to holding of former president and his associates accountable to the past crimes than we were in 2016?
Yes, in a sense, we are closer this year than we were last year, for instance, because we are in the process right now of looking at the Ghanaian angle of the 44 or more Ghanaians and Senegalese that were killed during JANNA's period. Last month, 2 additional Ghanaian survivors were revealed before the Ghanaian public, and the Ghanaian government itself. I am sure you have read something about this in the next previously. That Barrow has been contacted by the Ghanaian authorities, and he has indicated that he is going to look into the matter. The new transitional government, he has his hands full at the moment. I think the Ghanaian president had an interview about a week or so ago. So at least from that angle, it is being pursued, the issue of the 44 Ghana. That's all I can say for now. But I think that we will pursue these not only through the TRRC, but we also have other avenues. The international angle. Those of us who are still concerned about that justice be done to the victims, I think we will continue to pursue those angles as well.
Thank you. So that's being for it for this first part of the program on the review of the TRRC for 2019. We would resume shortly to discuss about the economy and look at other issues that had transpired in 2018.
Skincare Plus nara jàkkaarloog yéen waxtaan ak yéen tuuti rek si suñu tube suñu baax emuñ rek ci ay diw waaye comme ni ngeen ko xamee rek dañoo yëngu ci ay tube te yënguwuñ nag si just any tube suñ tube bu nekk 5-star JANNA la 5-star JANNA mooy JANNA bi gën a pire moom la ñoo tube palmaan bi gën a fort moom la ñoo liggéeyee ñun rek si tube dara du doy day des not only dañoo tube but bu la neexee ñu tuubal la ba pare nag ñawal la. We're not all about skin. We are skin, care, and the plus does come in so many different ways.
Welcome back. I mean, it's the 2019 special edition of the brunch that's looking at the major events of the past year. We've begun of the current year, which is actually has 2 days to end. With me here is Nima Kamara, and across the Atlantic, of course, in the United States is Mr. Sidi Sanneh. We've began the discussion with a member of the TRRC's communication team, Mr. Imran Dabo. We're back to now look at other issues aside from the TRRC. Mr. Sanneh, one of the issues that had happened in 2019 also, I mean, you've made reference to it a bit, was the JANNA Commission, and we will just begin the discussion with that. But of course, you can share with us your general review of 2019 with JANNA Commission in mind. How do you think the Commission fared? I mean, in terms of the presentation of its report, the report itself, and what followed thereafter?
Yeah, I think I have alluded to some of the issues confronted that the Commission confronted. That is, I think they tried to cover too many issues. I think they should have been more focused to look at the most serious, the most serious crimes that were committed under JANNA, financial crimes, economic crimes, and that sort of thing. I think it went too long, and I think that the same thing can be said of the TRRC. Limiting it to the most grievous issues and crimes purported to have been committed, I think would have been better. These types of commissions, the longer they go, the more they become very contentious, and you lose the public that you are supposed to be educating in the process. So I think this is one issue that I had with the JANNA Commission. The second issue I had, that is with the Ministry of Justice itself. At the end of the process, the JANNA Commission wrote, I think, about 9 volumes with their findings, recommendations. And then the government has a separate volume of their own, containing the white paper with their own conclusions, which we had problems with. Personally, I have problems with that. And I have made that my concerns known to the government. Now, we have also not been very happy with the way that the information is being disseminated. What the ministry ended up doing was to issue, was to provide a soft copy, which I think was done clandestinely, actually, because it was not done with the official sanction of the Ministry of Justice was the volume that contained the white paper volume itself was provided, and I think that the first volume, and that is about all. But out of those, out of 9 volumes, we were only able to see 1 or 2. But there are other volumes which are equally important. These are some of the specific recommendations dealing with procurement issues. There was a volume that dealt with the manner in which these issues were treated. There were also administrative issues. There were some recommendations how to improve the system itself, the procurement system, the administrative system, the decision-making system, procedures. So these would have been very helpful. So we have been after the ministry to release these volumes so that we can get into the nuts and bolts of the work of the JANNA Commission. Why they still have not released it, I don't know. But these are important volumes which have been kept away from the public. These are the things. It may also have been administrative reasons. It has nothing to do with nefarious reasons, but it does generate that type of speculations to be made by the public. I think these are right now in the 21st century. Anything that you put on your computer, it's available in the soft copy version. So why don't they make it available to people? So I have a problem with that as far as the JANNA Commission is concerned. But I think that the work that they've done is of quality, and I think that we can benefit a great deal from it if the recommendations were not, somewhat manipulated, in my view, in the white paper. And I think that equal justice had to be done to everybody. There should not have been any preferential treatment on some of these culprits who have been accused of certain financial and economic crime. But unfortunately, this is what has happened. This is the perception. The public perception is that some people are more equal than others. And I don't think that this is the type of new Gambia that we are fighting for still. Because JAME going is one thing, as we have all come to realize. Getting this, the environment right, getting the administrative structures right is something completely different. And we are working on that. It is a long process which will take the cooperation of the government. It will take the cooperation of those of us who are in the public eye. It is also the role of the parliament. I've seen that they have now started, thankfully, to exercise the right that was given to them by the Constitution and by their respective constituents. They are representing the interest of their communities. They are not there to represent the interest of their parties, neither are they there to represent the interest of the president or any other person. Yeah. So I think that in a nutshell, this is what I can say about the JANNA Commission. And I'm also just appealing once more to the Minister of Justice to release the other soft copies, the 8 or 7 volumes of the JANNA Commission, to put it online so that we can look at it, our partners can look at it, so that everybody can make their own individual judgments as to the outcome of the commission. It is publicly financed. It is the Gambian taxpayers who have financed it. It took them over a year or two to complete their work. It is the right of every Gambian, or every citizen actually, to have access to this final product, which is being paid for by them.
And in a minute, let me shift the discussion for a second to Nima. Mr. Sanneh was talking about preferential treatment in terms of the implementation of the JANNA Commission report, that some people feel some are equal, but others are some are more equal than others. I mean, how do you feel the same?
I mean, we have had this discussion here, and just generally speaking, I think the JANNA Commission has done an elaborate job. The investigations were apt, it was elaborate, it was done so well. And initially, at the beginning, there was so much public interest in it, and it was done publicly, so people knew what was happening. The entire process was broadcasted. So you want to imagine that when that is done, the people will be provided with the information that they need to consume to see what the outcome of that entire process was. But then when you have the government summarizing what they take out from the commission, not in its entirety, but what is acceptable to them, and then bring that out into the public with accepting certain recommendations and denying some of those recommendations, done in such a way that you think they are favoring certain people over others, then that begins, that it raises concerns and suspicions as to what their motive are. So I agree with him, and I agree with a lot of other people who believe that some people are in fact more equal than others, because that's what we have seen the government have done. And also, I think it defeats the entire purpose of why the commission was created, because there was so much money that was expended on this process. And at the end of the day, we want something that benefits this, the entire country out of that, whether that would be recovering the lost assets so that we can make up for the expenditure that we have incurred over the commission. We want to make sure that certain people pay for their crimes so that it will be as a way of deterrent to others who are in government. But if you retain some of those people who should be punished for their past actions, what you are condoning is to say that what you have done in the past, you can continue to do it and it will be acceptable. And that defeats the entire purpose of the JANNA Commission. And it also set a precedence for the other commissions that are on, because now you're thinking the commission can do a perfect job. The TRRC perhaps can do a perfect job. The CRC can do a perfect job. But how is the government going to deal with it? So all of these things have dwindled our confidence in the outcome of the JANNA Commission and the subsequent commissions that have been set up. So I agree with him, and I agree with the people who are critical of how the report was handled. And again, I want to be critical also of how they have handled the entire report, because in the past what we cried about as the public is our lack of access to information. Now, if you have something that unfolded in the public domain, and you want to have access to the report, and it's been denied to you, then what does that tell you?
Restriction on the accessibility.
Exactly. What are you harboring? What are you hiding? And just recently, I think 2 days ago, or 2 nights ago, somebody pointed to a particular individual and told me that this is Mohamed Basi. So I don't know if that is true, but that's what this individual told me. And my initial question was, is he still here? Is he continuing his businesses? What was the whole point of the JANNA Commission? If we are going to have perpetrators of economic crimes continue to operate their businesses here, I mean, allegedly in connivance with our own government, then it doesn't tell that we're really serious about recovering assets. It doesn't.
Mr. Sanneh, I mean, I bring this one back to you, because I mean, if you look at the procurement volume, I think that's volume 7. If you look at volume 7, it's on procurement. The volume 7 of the JANNA Commission recommended that companies such as Guy Enterprise, the company that won the Banjul contract, and also TK Motors, the company that's selling vehicles, be written to and be advised. In fact, it says TK Motors should be, there should be a 5-year ban from TK Motors from government procuring vehicles from this company. It's owned by Tariq Musa. And you would remember, if according to the 2017 audit report of Gambia Public Procurement Agency, we come to realize, by the Internal Audit Department, we come to realize that in fact, the government did not write a letter to the Guy Enterprise. Instead, they give them the contract, which was also single-handedly given to them against procurement rules. But also, the audit report also told us that borough government, the borough administration had taken, in fact, cars, vehicles from also TK Motors, which is in fact against procurement rules according to the Internal Audit Department report 27 of GPPA. Don't you think maybe it's because, I mean, things haven't changed much? That is why no much consideration have been given to the report.
Yes, I think this is what I was referring to when I said that we have to have access to all of these reports. For me personally, apart from the major recommendations or the recommendations of the Commission, the most important parts of the work of the Commission are those technical issues involved, which are contained in separate volumes. You have made reference to one of them, is the procurement. I have not seen it. Any copies that is available, it is done really without it's being released without the authority of government. But I would like to lay my hands on those other volumes. And I think what the government should have done was to have constituted a commission, a committee rather, that would involve also the private sector. It would involve some of the major players. It will include also representatives of the various companies that we have here that are doing business with the government, and the general public. Let them look at some of these issues. Solicit views from them as how to improve it, which will go as an input into any restructuring of the procurement system, which should be taken part and parcel with the overall restructuring of the government. It is extremely important. We can have all the national development programs available. We can put it in a nicely bounded volume. We can run around the world seeking financing. We can get pledges from our partners, external partners. But unless you have a structured administration that is responsible for the translation of those policies into actual projects that are actually also implemented in the right way, if we don't have the civil service itself structured, I think we are going to face the same problems that we have encountered in the last 2 years. It is not a criticism of the government. We are just pointing the way to the way it should be done. Like any other normal government in the sub-region. We know that after 22 years, Mustafa, we have gone through a lot. The structures have been distorted, they have been weakened, they were all designed to support an individual who is Yajambe. It is going to take some time. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be an easy exercise. It is unfortunate that we happen to have a transition government that is faced with such difficult choices to make. So this has also been one of the problems. Yes.
Seen so far, I mean, you've seen a letter written from the management of ports trying to also build a police station around Mankamakunda. We've seen, I mean, when that letter came out, a lot of other issues, people said, well, things are not changing much. Do you think that we are moving towards an area that suggests that there will be a similar situation like the JANNA Commission exposed?
Yeah, as far as the state-owned enterprises are concerned, I could remember as far back as 2014, 2013, when the proposal was made by the IMF to restructure and the World Bank to restructure the state enterprises, to rationalize them. And part of the reason for that was to be able to look at the operational issues involved in each and every one of these state-owned enterprises, GAMTEL, NAVEC, Ports Authority, and the like. And what JANNA did was to have access to the resources in these various state enterprises. He encouraged them to participate in the functions and the activities of not only government, but his own political parties. And this is where this social responsibility comes into play. And then they expanded that role from just providing beds and things to the hospitals and health centers. It now goes into building schools and building all sorts of facilities on behalf of the community, they say. But it is, usually is the executive that is behind it. I don't believe that the resources of those state-owned enterprises should go into those type of structures or those type of projects. That is the role, in the case of the police stations, that is the role of the Ministry of Interior. That is the role of the IG's department, the police department, and not the Ports Authority or GAMTEL or any other state-owned enterprises. But again,
I mean, you've made reference to a World Bank report, I think. I've heard you mention World Bank and you've talked about the SOE, but there had been an SOE audit, and I'm sure you may have copies of the SOE audit. This audit has been available for about 3-4 months now. Government had not even communicated any actions whatsoever. In fact, this document was not publicly shared, and you've seen the litany of issues that this SOE audit done by a British firm had exposed within the public enterprises. It in fact looked into issues affecting the GMPC and a lot of other companies, NAWEC, GAMTEL, GAMCEL, and a lot of other social security.
Yeah, well, again, you are just giving us one additional example of what is, what is wrong with the current system. And I think that we just have to nudge the borough government a little bit more so that they can move in that direction. There are quite a lot of things that we need to do, but it is not being done. Instead, we are just carrying on as if like nothing has happened. And that is a continuation, as most people believe now, that it is a continuation of the JANNA government and system. We have to have that change. I know it is difficult. I understand the positions of the politician. The politician is looking at ways and means of getting re-elected. We understand that. So politics does play a part, but it doesn't have to be 100% politics. And this is where we are. We need to change that complexion to put more on the emphasis on trying to redirect the economy into the path of growth. And you can only do that if you do these very difficult changes. It has happened before. It is not an easy task. If you say, for instance, that you have a bloated civil service, that you don't need that many people in the civil service, you know what that means. It means retrenchment. And politicians don't want to go down that road. Sooner or later, we're going to have to. So the sooner we do it, I think the better. So but these are some of the issues. They are very difficult choices. Let us not fool ourselves. We can also expect politicians to accept all the proposals that are being made because they are looking at the next election. This is the way the system works, and this is where politicians are like that everywhere. In America, it's the same thing. But at some point, you have to say, well, look, if we don't do this, we are going to lose the economy, and if we lose the economy, we are going to lose a lot of people. Right now, their lives are at risk because the economy is not performing the way it should perform. The resources are not being applied in the fashion that they should be applied. We need to make those changes, and you really have to have people who are committed. Pardon me?
Out a bloated civil service. Of course, we have a wage bill of about $3 billion. You've talked. There is a rise in debt. I mean, the debt is going back again. We even though we claim the GDP had expanded, the debt to GDP ratio obviously fell. But then again, we're taking so much loan now. I think we about $73 billion. Of course, but the figures aren't that bad. I mean, in terms of the growth we expect in 2020, in this last quarter of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. But of course, you would see that there is going to be a challenge with the collapse of Thomas Cook and the agriculture, the slump in productivity. I mean, do you think going forward we may see a very difficult 2020, beginning 2020?
You've touched on so many things that if we started on the economy as of yet, really. Because in order to really have the capacity of the civil service must be assessed, because as I said earlier, you are going to have to rely on civil service to be able to implement these projects, to be able to design and help design a policy that will upgrade the lives of the ordinary person. You have made mention of the fact that the growth rate, yes, last year it was 6.5%, but it has contracted here to 6%. And what is expected of next year is about the same. It's going to be in the range of 6 to 7%. Okay. It is not bad, but you walk into any public place, go into the Serekunda market, go to the Albert market, and you ask people, is there been any difference in their livelihood between 2017 and 2018 or 2019? The growth rate is fine, but if it is not being felt, if it is not having any impact on your life as Mustafa Dabo, I mean, you can go to 10%. There is that disconnect between the figures as they are shown. I would rather have 6% than to have 2%, for instance. There's no doubt about that. But it is not being felt because of what the other factors, that are having an impact on the lives of ordinary persons. Okay, the prices of inflation is on the rise. The cost of electricity has gone up. Not only that, but its regular supply, intermittent supply, is also having an impact on the lives of ordinary people. Now we have water problems. So there are many issues that are involved that may not necessarily reflect the growth rate of an economy. We have to really look at it and disaggregate all of that into into a matrix that will be able to we will be able to manipulate and to see exactly where we need to be at a given point in time.
And we're beginning to now end this program, but I think there is one more important issue I need to take up with you. I mean, as the year ends, so are we also talking about 3 years JANNA. I mean, it's a pro-democracy movement. You must have been following it yourself as a blogger and commentator on Gambian affairs. You've seen a lot of young people took to the street. There's a promise if the president didn't resign, they're going to take to the street in January again. There is going to be a counter protest against 3 years JANNA, also by a group calling itself 5 years. Gambians for 5 years. So, I mean, where does this leave the country? I mean, the political environment and, of course, the economic environment. And what must we do?
Mustafa, you want to put me into trouble again because I said 2 days ago that the failure of the coalition of 7+1 it should be the issue or the problem of not only UDP but also all the other parties. 7+1, including Aissatou Touré, who was then at that point the individual independent candidate for the presidency at the time. And I got a good comments on that and criticized in some quarters. But I believe that is the case, that they all should be responsible. We don't have to rehash, that at this point. But I think that what is needed now is to move forward. At the moment, 3 years, 5 years. If we had done what was suggested 2 years ago, we would not be in this position. Because if the MOU, whether signed or unsigned, that's my personal view again, is that a word of somebody, a word is my bond, as they say. I don't have to have a contract, especially for such an important issue as reuniting the country and having a transitional government. But all the same, it has happened. The 3 years, I would have stuck with the 3 years, and then if I wanted to go for the 5 years, the 7+1 coalition convened a Congress at the Kairaba, I believe it was. They came from Banjul to Koina. They derived their legitimacy from that Congress. I see no reason why. Up to today, I keep scratching my head. Why did they reconvene the same Congress and say to them, the president, we agreed, all of us agreed that it should be 3 years. It's a transition period, but we have discovered that we really need the extra 2 years so that we can, not only synchronize it with the constitution provision, but also to make sure that we, at least to give us that extra 2 years to be able to complete some of the changes we're trying to make. At that time, Ousseynou Dabo was in the coalition. He was in the government. He was foreign minister, and then he was vice president. Why they could not have done it at that time, when people were saying to them, why don't you reconvene it? If they had reconvened it with Ousseynou Dabo still there, with Adama Barrow and all the other coalition members, I don't see any reason why the same Congress would not have come to the same conclusion to say, yes, I think it's necessary for them to stay on for 2 years. They could have been able to do that. And then they would save us all these problems. But they did not do it. And it is the responsibility of DOI as it is the responsibility of UDP. I mean, they don't want to hear that, but this is the fact. They are all responsible. All of them. They are responsible. You talk to some of them, they say, oh, we have a signed copy. Somebody came on television, radio, and said plainly that there are signed copies of the MOU, 4 copies signed by I don't know who and who. But it is there. But if you talk to all of this, it's not signed. We don't know whether it's signed or unsigned. But for me personally, I don't think it is necessary for it to be signed. If it is something that I have, pardon me?
You still think there is time for dialogue? I mean, and that's what should happen right now.
Well, I've called for that also back in June. I have, I can say this now. I have been in contact with the GDC. I spoke with Mama Kande. I went to see Usain Odabo in his office before I left for the airport on my last trip. I spoke with a personal representative or somebody very close to Barrow. I did not see Barrow, but I spoke to somebody to say, look, the way the direction this country is taking is not something that is really, it's something that is good for the country. Okay? Because I have seen it happen in Liberia, I have seen it happen in Sierra Leone, I was in Cote d'Ivoire when it was happening with Conal Pidi and Draman Ouattara. We've seen all of these things happening, and we are saying to them, there is a need for you to open a channel of communication. But still, there has not been much movement in that. So I take it to mean that they are not interested. Or at least one camp is not interested in it. I don't know. But really, we are on the wrong trajectory. I think that we really need to dial the whole thing back. The sound is, there's too much noise going on at the moment. The 3 years and the 5 years. At this stage, it's water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. I was one of those initially who said 3 years. But now it is not feasible. You cannot organize an election that is free, fair, and open, transparent. You cannot do it in 3 months' time. Now, whether we can do it even in 2021, to me, I still have my reservations. Why? Because we are still in the process of developing a new constitution. The consultations are still going on. After it is gone on, they will have to submit this to the government. What the government does with the recommendations of the final draft is critical. It is extremely important, and we should take pointers from what has happened in the JANNA Commission. If there are any significant changes, especially on those clauses which we all setting our eyes on, there's going to be trouble. So let us be very careful. Assuming that we've gone through all that, you've got to submit the document to a referendum. And the referendum has to have 75% approval rate of all those voters who have voted in the elections. So there are several hurdles that we need to clear. Are we going to be able to do that? If we don't, at the end of 2021, what do? We are stuck with the JAMA constitution. So these are all issues which we should have started long time ago. But again, this is where we are. Let us make the best of it. Most of us are available to assist in any form that we can. But the government has to also be receptive. There is one perception out here on the side of the diasporans, that is that they don't trust us. They think that we are troublemakers, and we are being treated almost exactly the same way that JAMA has treated us. And it should not be that way. We are all Gambians. We all have the interests of the Gambia at heart. We may have different ways and paths of getting to where we think we should be at. but we don't have any ill will against the government. Neither do we have it against our own country. It would not make any sense. It's our country. We want it to progress. We look around and see our neighbors going forward. Yesterday, I just posted something about the Ghanaian Minister of Interior of Communications, saying that henceforth, beginning 1st of January, all Ghanaians will be able to use their own phone systems in all of the ECOWAS countries without charges. They are moving ahead. Gambia should also be on the road, on that same road as Ghana. Even Liberia is on the road to try and change things. Sierra Leone is doing the same thing, not to mention Senegal. Why not Gambia? Instead, we are pointing fingers at each other. We are going into parliament and lecturing one another. You know, I mean, really, countries are moving. They are moving, and they are very serious about what they are doing. We need to also be serious and stop all this pontification and what have you, and let us get on with the job. The technical work has to be done. We have to give access to Gambian expertise. We have retirees who are in Gambia, the public with public service experience, with international experience. They are in the Gambia. They can be used. You know, they can utilize their talents. Before looking for experts outside, let us start looking at our experts internally. I mean, these are all of the issues which can be done without having to move a mountain. You know, so really, we have to work on our attitude. We have to open up ourselves. Don't look at Mustafa and say, oh, because Mustafa wants my job, or because, no. It should not be that way. Right? Gambia was, you know, still a small country, but we were on the top of the league in most of these issues as far as Africa is concerned. And there's no reason why we cannot reassume our rightful place in a new Gambia and in a new Africa. Let us stop this bickering. It is too much. The politics is too much. At the end of the elections, let us put politics aside. Let us put party aside. Put our heads and hands together to move this country. You know, but we are constantly at each other's throats, and in most cases for nothing whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. I think I've lectured enough. Thank you.
Sidi Sanneh, I mean, for absolutely joining us on this special edition of the brunch that looks at 2019 in the Gambia, and we very appreciate the time you've spent with us. We would have more of this perhaps in 2020 to look at issues within a broader context. Nyima, any final words before we say goodbye to our viewers?
I think Mr. Sanneh has covered a lot surrounding this 3 years JANNA. There are things I agreed with him on, and there are things that I was shaking my head and like, I do not agree with this. But I think I have made my view on the 3 years JANNA very clearly in our past discussions. And I think the coalition, the other parties, have a major role to play in this. But as far as accountability is concerned, I don't think we can hold them to the same level as we do with the president. The whole 3 years JANNA is not even about, it's not so much about President Barrow as it is about our frustrations with the change that must happen and hasn't begun to happen. I think people are frustrated about the fact that we had an opportunity to make things work in this country. It's a very small country to move forward. And if you're serious about our development, we can do it. But it begins with the leadership. It begins with taking things seriously and focusing on the greater good rather than our individual good. So the frustration surrounding all of these things is now manifesting itself in a form of 3 years JANNA and other movements that we are seeing, other protests that had happened. The coalition can reconvene a meeting whatever conclusion they reach will not still have any legitimacy on what is on the table. What they can do is to come up with recommendations or maybe try to convince the public that we made this agreement with the less foresight then than we have now. And knowing what we have now, we want to support President Barrow's intention to continue for 5 years because that is what is in the best interest of all of us. But again, it still would not change anything. If there should be any consultation, the consultation should be between the President and the people because it is the President we must hold to account for his words. So I think that's why I did not agree with him. But to summarize this, because it has been a very long discussion and if you can see, we are all tired. I just want to say our democracy have come so far, and we should be able to embrace all of these divergence views and these protests that we not just condemn them. It's a healthy part of our democratic process, and both the government and the people should be willing to embrace it. I don't see much that the 3 years JANNA can do to make Barrow to reconsider his intentions, but at least it is going to shake him a little bit to understand that the ultimate power lies with the people, and that's what we must manifest.
Thank you, Ngima. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you for today. Join us in the new year. We would be still here in 2020. With the same capacity as we do. So thank you very much and Happy New Year in advance.
Thank you. Thank you.
ñëw ak yéen rek skincare plus nara jàkkaarloo ak yéen waxtaan ak yéen tuuti rek si suñu tube suñu baax emuñ rek ci ay diw waaye comme ni ngeen ko xamee rek dañoo yëngu ci ay tube te yënguwuñ nag si just any tube suñ tube bu nekk 5-star JANNA la 5-star JANNA mooy JANNA bi gën a pire moom la ñoo tube palmaan bi gën a fort moom la ñoo liggéeyee ñun rek si tube dara du doy day des not only dañoo tube but bu la neexee ñu tuubal la ba pare nag ñawal la. We're not all about skin. We are skin, care, and the plus does come in so many different ways.
No, ini bara.
Alright, okay. Dimbara.
Welcome.
Basically, lot of lala me along is cool, man, that I can really relax.
What the madam?
Yeah, that's
what the madam?
Yeah.
Let them do somebody.
That's right.
Grand Villa.
Kamu jadi Grand Villa.
That's fine.
Selamat. Yes. No.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people are basically me alone because they relax. So it's always something that I can understand. It's always very relaxing.
Nina Fani Sewa, Nidia, Nena Grand Villa is the best guest house in the Gambia.
Beji andika Grand Villa Guest House. Na labungol bebe senyaring adu na bungol bebe nyarandiring coming ibela fila ila suwe taranyame. Intel Grand Villa na kiliano la lafino wale mukamwati intel kang. Na ye sabati Grand Villa yela kodo na fa kalamuta.
Oh man, this is like a paradise.
I know.
I so much love this place.
Yeah, thank you.
Trust me, I love this place.
You come to somebody and you're watching one.
Yeah.
And you want to Gambia. Grand Villa.
I tell you. I love this place. Okay. I love this place, man. Oh yeah.
Ni lefta na kuo keso sotola. Futama Oljuntum Paradise Estate. Mbaya kumandiroke 7527218. Wale futana website auto www.grandvillaguesthouse.com. Grand Villa Guest House.
Dreaming of owning a property in a prime location with great proximity and fantastic neighborhood? EJ Investments Sanyang Seaview Estate is the best choice you have been waiting for. Our Sanyang Seaview Estate is approximately 15 minutes drive away from the busy hub of Brusubi roundabout and into the heart of nature, where you can have a peaceful and relaxed lifestyle with your family. You can buy a finished 4-bedroom story with 5-year flexible payment plan or a service plot with 2-year payment plan option. With over 300 homes, you will enjoy big tar roads with covered drainage, modern electrification with solar street lights, gated entrance with security post, and a breath-catching experience of our beautiful sea view and lake view. You can own a home today at our Sanyang Seaview Estate. Call us today on 446-4838 or 325-9220. Visit our website on ejinvestments.net. EJ Investments, first in property.
Yara nyilla domoro kadiyata.
Boy, Janno Seekers Restaurant.
Sa nako be ni na dimbal. Nimba domoro kala janno.
Domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kende ma bije. Luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni. Adi manda wala de. Teka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa. E ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery. Iko fanan bekalele. Badde lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo pendin lo dunia kono domoro betama nyillom international o toda number 1
amanke ba domoro jandama
esa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa na ko sa futandin
oto sa na ko be mu CK's restaurant
dafa na janna mu yat ni manje dorom bijam
aban
CK's restaurant, known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.
na broda min ba Europe Mr. Conte nka bo wala kol kan sai na so ko na mano banta jabo banta tulo ban sai ka bo kol kan anda ka ba office ko na ba dama bulo mutarin ba ka ta simpla no ni ko batunga ne ta ya kuriye ma ko dubanti na ta mano sani tulo ni jam
munda bete ni la broda man balwo service kalam
mun service
balwo service
ni da foronte mo kalam
munda afela broda ko abitala internet all aya ba site la woldo balwo.com na wo sajje a apu nga ba download la telephone lo na be sandiro to ni wal na be sidin ala office ko ndama manjar pour ay ta bank ko kodoki abe sidin office ko na daminto ite message so ya telephone ko no e bitiko be Gambia dawda bitiko ba belo ko ta tano dawda yeta fenko tawo wodama
yala bari wa service na ta mun da hannu mata nyo le kan kija na bro dan ka ko mata nyo le ayo ko kija
balwo service dinkirala jampo wo manken na kolaya ko balwo service al demano kaje ko ale domor feŋol sang alla dimbaya molu ana lakkanun tewol wato bela ani wat sudum fanan kono balwo service la dinkiralu ani la do kunyolu e banko karo beto kabirin katon fo koyna nalla fa ko ku ko tan so balwo service la kolto ali commandi telephone la no la milbuko 9400213 7694319 wala 3192870 wala hankabi alta internet oto alila kolu jibe www.baluwo.com.
Do you live abroad and want to build your dream home in the Gambia without risking your funds and family ties? Do you want a household name that is trustworthy and efficient? A name that will continue to give you updates on the project from the beginning to the very end with videos and pictures? If your answer is yes, then worry no more. Boss Construction and Asset Management is here for you. If you live outside the Gambia and want to build your dream home, then this is ideal for you. Just reach out to Boss Construction and let's start building the dream home into a reality. With Boss Construction, the difference is clear. We give you value for money. Some of our services includes the following: construction management, building equipment rentals, rent management, purchase and leasing, asset management, and many more. For more information, please contact 282-4945. Better still, send us an email, bossgambia@gmail.com, or you can also visit our website on www.bossgambia.com. Boss Construction, a name you can trust. Boss Construction and Asset Management, keeping families together.